Welcome to Pro Political Pod, the pinnacle of political discussion. I am your host, Chris Caputo, and alongside me is my co-host, Andrew Cornick. We will be discussing U.S. politics by discussing the news and giving our personal takes. In the future, we hope to have as many guests on our show as possible, branching out across the political spectrum. Because there's so many solutions to the problems that affect everybody, we'll have to get everyone's insight on things. Just remember to keep in mind, okay? Keep an open mind while sticking to your core principles and to never judge anyone on their political beliefs.
Unless it's really fucking stupid.
Unless it's really fucking stupid. Unless it's that.
Now, let me be clear.
I am
You peddle false narratives.
Sexy boo.
We'll see who cancels who.
Watch me.
All right, so this is our first
First episode, right?
first episode. Yeah, man.
Pretty
I mean,
dope.
this is pretty dope. This is pretty cool. And to kick things off, unfortunately, I do not have the interviews on hand. The editor still hasn't edited the videos. It's been very busy, but we are going to talk about CPAC that just happened about 2 weeks ago. CPAC, I went around. I had media passes. You can't really see it, but I have a media pass hanging on my lamp back there. And first time I ever got media passes. This is a first, I must say. And it was really cool. I gotta say, it was pretty cool to walk around, do interviews. I'm new at it. You can follow. It's under the page Pro Political Gear on TikTok and Instagram, where I do interviews. And so I was doing interviews at CPAC this year, and there are some events that happen at CPAC. I gotta say. Andrew, you've seen some of the stuff online, some of the videos, some of the stuff on Twitter. And I saw everything, or a lot of things, except for the speeches in person, because when you have media passes, they don't give you like a chance to walk in and say, hey, you can sit with the people. No, you can't. You got to sit in this media room where they have media risers blocking everything off, and they give you like a 40-inch TV. So good luck.
I don't trust you guys in the mainstream media.
They don't trust us. And you know what?
Honestly, they should have though, because that shit looked mad dead, bro. Like I saw all kinds of pictures. No one went this year.
Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of people, so it wasn't a good turnout for them, which could be fortunate for me if I get media passes. Which thank you to CPAC, thank you guys. You guys, they didn't email me right away. It was a pain in the neck, but I still thank CPAC for giving me the media passes to do what I love to do, go out and interview people and ask them their thoughts on the current political climate. So I went out, I did my interviews.
You had thoughts.
Yeah, and we got a good amount of interviews. I lost my voice. During CPAC. It was insane. I lost my voice during CPAC, and it was terrible because, of course, I'm doing interviews. So it's like, out of all the days, how do I lose my voice during the days that I have to do interviews? So it was, we made the best of it, right? So I gotta say, at CPAC, regardless on what you think about conservatives and the MAGA crowd, it was mostly a MAGA crowd. It was a MAGA crowd. I'm not even gonna say it was conservatives. It was a MAGA crowd. I will say that. Okay. Regardless of what you think, they were actually one of the nicest people I've ever met. It was crazy. They were very nice people.
I mean, you were like kind of placating to them, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just doing interviews. Like I said, it's not biased interviews. It's just, and I just like to get their perception on what's going on. And I feel like I should have asked more questions, but I feel like I asked good questions. And you guys will see that in the coming weeks. You'll see the interviews coming out. But I will say my experience at CPAC was definitely interesting. First time, like I said, I went to CPAC, and I didn't see any of the speeches right until like a little bit after, when I saw two things that I thought was a bit of a head scratcher actually. Donald Trump Jr. I saw him a few times. I was walking past. They had the media row, which was they had it in like kind of like a corner area where they have like Newsmax next
What was
to
it like
American
walking
Voice.
around like a lot of those guys, like seeing them? Like, what did you think?
It was crazy actually. It was like, wow, they're like right there, but it's like everyone was all dolled up, so kind of like Like I know my brother wasn't a fan of it. He was like, wow, it's like it looks kind of like he felt it was like kind of fake and everything. I was like, wow, like I was just like looking around, looking at everyone with the podcast because they had regular people like us, like just doing podcasts, just like sitting there. They would have guests on, which I thought was pretty cool. So they had like independent people there. There were people like you never even heard from that were there, and it was pretty cool. And they would do the podcast. Sometimes they would get like some of the politicians on, which I thought was pretty cool. But they had Newsmax and they had America's Voice, and they had them in like back to back. They were right next to each other, and it's like you couldn't walk past there because when you had like they had like Steve Bannon there, they had what's his name? They had Mike Lindell there, and he had Don Jr. and like all three of them were like in one section. So it's like it was chaos to walk past there. You didn't want to walk past there. It was ridiculous, right? And to get to the other side, the only thing that they had was the anti-CCP people, right? And they had a cool setup. I'm not gonna lie. Some of the setups are pretty nice. And I was like, oh wow, like they really like, and they had to get there early and set up, you know. So it's kind of crazy. But I didn't see until later on two things. I mean, obviously there's some things that people said, which is kind of crazy, I must say.
It is a conservative action.
And one of them was Don Jr. calling Fetterman a vegetable. And that shit was kind of crazy. And
I mean,
it's like
it was like just it's like a really dumb comment. You know, it's
yeah.
like not surprising. You know,
But-
full disclosure, I'm
Yeah.
pretty firmly on the left, so I'm not really a fan of Don Jr. and I'm a fan of Fetterman. So, but at the same time, I'm not really the type to get up in arms about it. It's just kind of like you just said a stupid thing,
Because if you know,
and of course, like they're gonna attack them in that kind of way. Like it's it's really disrespectful and ableist and all that junk. But what do you expect?
you know, if it was Trump though, you'd be laughing. If it was Trump Jr. is like, that's kind of weak. That's kind of whatever. But if it was Trump, you would have been more
I mean,
like.
It depends.
it'd
He might have said something actually funny because for as terrible as Trump is, he does say funny things, as we'll get to, with in regards to Ron DeSantis.
He does say hilarious shit. I
But
mean,
like, I don't know, because saying like a vegetable, it's like low hanging fruit, you know.
oh,
Like
absolutely, man.
Trump
I
does
was
low hanging fruit too, but sometimes it's just so like random that it's like, why would you say that? Like
I-
that's the thing with a lot of these conservative types since Trump became really prominent, is that they try to do like the crassness and the name calling and stuff, but they do it in a very like obvious kind of way, you know? Like it's never really that funny when it comes to, from a lot of these guys.
it comes off more as cringe.
It comes off as cringe or just like mean, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, but like I said, it definitely would have been delivered definitely differently if it was Trump himself instead of Don Jr. I think so. I think
But
we
even,
both
even
agree on that.
Trump made like similar attacks of him, and some of those were kind of weak too. I don't remember them being kind of like.
I mean, his attacks have been getting a little bit weaker as he's getting older, um, which is unfortunate. If you watch politics and you just see it and you look at what's happening, and it's like, oh wow, like if you don't like what he's doing, and then the jokes aren't good, it's like you like nothing about this person. At least if you get the jokes in, it's kind of like, all right, well, maybe you could look back on and be like, all right, maybe that was funny, but if everything's bad, it just sucks. But it depends on what you think. It depends on where you are politically. If you like Trump, then you must love his shit. You know?
Yeah, at this point, if you like him, it's kind of like weird.
Yeah. So, but yeah, walking around CPAC, I mean, so he called Fetterman a vegetable, which is funny to me, very funny, if hilarious, because the vegetable beat their candidate,
Yeah.
Dr. Ross, and here's the thing. I mean,
well, that's the other kind of
Mhm.
glorious thing about that, right? Because it's like they're basically doing their own version of what a lot of the liberal outlets did in 2016 when Hillary lost that state, and some other Rust Belt states, which was basically like attacking like the voter base, you know. And like, while I think with 2016 there is some nuance to say, like, I mean, some people who support Trump, of course, they were racist, like not every Republican's a racist, but if you're a racist person, you're more likely to support a candidate like Trump. I think that's pretty obvious personally. But in the case of this though, it's kind of like there really isn't any nuance to it. It's just kind of like this guy doesn't speak proper sentences because he had a stroke. So if you vote for him, you're an idiot. You know.
And here's the thing with Fetterman winning. I mean, Dr. Oz has really poised this guy who is supposed to be definite to beat him, especially after that debate. I mean, you look at Oz on the debate stage, and then we'll come back to CPAC in a second. But you look at Oz on the debate stage, it's like he looks like $1,000,000. He talks like $1,000,000. Why? Because he's used to this. He knows what he's doing. He's been on TV for several years. He knows how to talk to a crowd. He knows how to talk to people watching at home. Fetterman could not do any of that stuff. Unfortunately, given he had a stroke, so it was very hard for him. He got nervous, and I felt bad for him. I really did. I still do. We really hope that he's doing well. We don't want to see anyone get hurt or have a sickness or any type of disease, and we don't. It's just a shame. It really is a shame. So we hope he gets better. Hope Fetterman gets better. Regardless, even if you don't like him, definitely hope he gets better. And Don Jr. was sounded like he was pretty mad that that the Republican Party lost to Fetterman, but they can't be too surprised because Dr. Oz was not connecting with the audience or to the younger people, okay, for a couple of different reasons, okay. And one of them was definitely with the bye week. The Steelers, he said before you go to the Steelers game, make sure to, I think it was early vote or whatever. They were on a bye week, getting crudité. I mean, you know how it was. Instead of going to Wegmans, he called it Wegners, I think. So it's like he wasn't able to connect. So Don Jr. was very visibly upset here, absolutely, and him calling him a vegetable, like you said, low-hanging fruit, because that's what it was. That's what it absolutely was. I mean, we've seen things that happen at CPAC as well. I think Michael Knowles
of the Daily Wire.
Yeah. Transgenderism must be eradicated. That was pretty crazy.
Isn't the thing he said?
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. What I mean, definitely for me and I know for Andrew, we are very. I feel like we're very much libertarians on this issue. It's like you in this country at least, you have the freedom of expression. You could do what you want. Now you could say it's weird. You could say it's some weirdo activity. You could say whatever you want. Freedom of speech, you have it. But to nail someone's, but it goes both ways. To nail someone's freedom of expression.
A lot of these guys talk about free speech and then we'll say stuff like this. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then I think that's something that is a problem that if you and it's one of those things with the problem. It's like you're on this side, you can't see it though. People on that side can't see how, it's a double standard.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate.
I will say too. I mean, did you hear what happened with that with Jeffree Star, like it's like a gay makeup influencer?
Oh yeah, I think he said something. Was it with they
basically
them?
he was like saying like non-binary's like stupid and too far, and a lot of people who are like right-leaning, they're like, oh, see, even like this guy, because that happens a lot, like where even this like whatever agrees that the left is going too far, and usually that's kind of like a universal, like they'll just take it and kind of run with it. But the other kind of like Daily Wire, anti-trans guy, Matt Walsh, made a video basically saying, well, actually, I mean, he thinks that trans women and trans men are valid, so it doesn't matter that he doesn't like non-binary. Like, he's just as bad. This is becoming a trend too now, and that was kind of the bigger theme of that part of Mike Knowles' speech, was basically, listen, like, this trans contagion is going too far. Like, we can't even like accept trans adults. Now it's everyone. That they're all equally a problem and need to be eradicated. And also on top of that too, like a lot of them, of course the liberal outlets are gonna, rightfully so in my opinion, have outrage articles about this, and they rephrase what he said basically, and the Daily Wire responded by saying, oh well, this isn't exactly what we said, and kind of like threatening legal action over it, even though the crux of what they're saying is essentially, yeah, like, we don't think trans people should exist. Period.
Because he was saying in a way, he's like, well, if this means this, then that must mean that. That's why and of course, whatever it is, whatever kind of political spectrum you're on, it's a word game, right? They use it all the time, and this time on the right, they used it. They used it in this scenario, like, whoa, well, we didn't mean it like that. We just mean it like, and then they'll say what they said,
Yeah.
and it's not taking them out of context. It's like. It's really not, because you know what they mean. When you see a certain group of people that posts a certain thing, and you see multiples of these things, these videos, these images, these whatever it is, and you post it multiple times, it kind of gives you the vision, or the understanding of like, maybe they don't like this group of people. Maybe they do want them to be eradicated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like maybe he didn't say it in the sense that he didn't mean it for it to be that blatant, but it was. It absolutely was. So
And, I mean, he was at CPAC. I think he wanted that kind of to get
Of
that
course.
rise out of that crowd.
Well,
So definitely.
you had to get a rise out of the crowd, and I understand that because apparently there wasn't that many people in the seats. I wish they allowed us to go in and to watch the speakers, because I would have been there to watch some of the speeches. I definitely would have been. Okay. As I see back with experience, I definitely I would go again to do some more interviews, because I mean it's not really a convention that I would be at to be like, oh yes, CPAC.
Yeah, not really.
You know what I mean? And
Or
it's not
it's just kinda like-
yeah, but it's more so to get people and to understand, what they think on, like I said, what the issue is now. All right, like I would ask people, like, what are your top 3 most important issues? I would ask people,
So of those people
what happened in the
you asked,
midterms.
How many of them talked about trans people, like, as one of their important
Actually,
issues?
not a lot. Not a lot of people. A
'Cause
lot of people.
I remember after the midterm elections, there was actually a poll that came out where they asked, like, specifically Republicans, like, what their most important issues were, and trans was actually one of the lowest, if not the lowest.
Yeah, it was actually one of the lowest. In fact, like,
Which is crazy because it's like every other day. If you're looking, like, I see a lot of this stuff.
Oh
where,
yeah,
like, there'll
absolutely.
be all these like red states pushing these bills through, like restrict this stuff.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I don't think they really told that. I think the biggest one was the wall and illegal immigration. Okay. I think some of them said education. Okay. I forgot what the third one was. I forgot what the third one was. I have to go back and I have to look at the footage, or maybe when it's edited, in increments, I'll find it. But definitely, I could say 2 things that I know. One that I remember from there. Oh, deep state was another thing, but I don't know how high of a percentage that was. And then at the end, when it was Trump or DeSantis, which we're gonna get into that later, right? A lot of people did say Trump, from what I remember. So, but we're gonna go back to that. They had a gold chocolate bar. Don Jr. said he had a gold chocolate bar that was underneath your seat. I think it was to meet Trump.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't be there for that because, like I said, the speaker. Hell yeah, I would get the chocolate bar. I could interview Trump, of course. I interview anybody. Okay, there's no discrimination in who I want to interview. I'll interview anybody. I'll give anybody the mic. I mean, look at the guy that I gave the mic to just about, what was it, a month or 2 ago? Save the foreskins guy.
Oh yeah.
Dude, like I don't, like, anybody that wants to speak their mind, speak it. And Trump's running in 2024. He's got policy to talk about. There's been no policy that I've seen being talked about. There's policy to be talked about. Hell yeah, I'd interview him. I interview people on policy. Why can't I interview politicians on policy? I see no reason. And so,
Well, I wasn't really.
I would definitely.
I wasn't really saying that. I was just laughing at the idea of the whole.
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole thing. It's just like ridiculous.
It's like a
don't know.
Willy Wonka chocolate bar.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, but that's what I mean. Like a lot of this, like a lot of people who still follow Trump are kind of. It just feels kind of like, I hate to say it's like a cult, but it's just so like they're just kind of like in their own world, with this whole stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so
Like-
when I. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I think there was a point in time where a lot of people who supported, Trump specifically were people who I could disagree with them, but I feel like they actually cared about a vision of the world that they legitimately thought was better. Whereas I think now it's kind of just been so construed to where it's just so detached from any kind of semblance of where, I think people like me and you are,
Mm-hmm.
or how we kind of perceive these issues.
Yeah.
It feel I would have liked to be there with you to talk to him. It was him and his brother who's his production guy for this
Yeah.
pro political thing.
I
So
must
I
say
wasn't
before.
there, but it's just to see where they're coming from, what their mindset is, because I feel like you talking about those issues, it's okay, they talk about the wall and immigration, but it's and most presidents are pretty similar on immigration, the way they enforce it, and then on education, what's a Republican voter's idea of
Oh,
education
come
reform?
on. You know.
What is it
You say it. Say it. You know it.
what, trade school,
No.
a charter school,
No.
private school?
You see it on the news all the time, and you still don't
Oh,
know this
the
by now.
wokeness and all that.
There you go. There
Okay,
you go. You just figured it out. The transgender or the what
but
is
then
it?
wouldn't
The
that mean the
drag
trans
queens, drag queens in schools, and CRT. Those are the two things when they talk about education reform. Now there should be education
Well, is
reform.
that what they talked
Absolutely.
about with education reform? Is that
Yeah.
what they said when to you?
Yes, some of them did.
Okay.
Some of them did. But what I
Well, I'm
wanted to
just asking.
say,
I can believe it, but I'm just asking in the sense of but it's okay, because
I was gonna
a lot of these
say,
people are just detached from the reality of education. Is more my point, I guess, and the issues in that field. It feels like they have problems and things that make sense, and then you ask them about it, and then they'll just go completely off. They're oh, I think education is reform. Oh yeah, I think schools need more funding. Teachers probably should make more. We need to repurpose our what we're teaching kids. And then it's oh yeah, we need to repurpose them so they're not learning about trans ideology. What? And
I
then with the deep state, it's yeah, corruption's a big problem. But then they'll go into some of the more crazy ones will go into QAnon and stuff, where it's that's just not even, or the election being stolen.
I've definitely gotten a good amount of those. I was gonna say, and also to mention because you mentioned my brother, so I want to mention big shout out to my brother. I don't know if he's gonna watch this, but I thank him
He should.
so much for helping me do what I want to do, going out doing interviews because I can tell you what, he hates politics. Doesn't give a shit for it. Does not like politics, and him being in CPAC did not make him like it anymore. He did not like it. He was not having a good time. He's not like me, and he's not like Andrew over here, where we would go in and we'll enjoy it because we're into politics, right? So, so shout out to him. I had to mention that because you mentioned my brother. So, to, big props to him. Big props to him. But when we were going around, when doing the interviews, we had this old lady come up to us, all right? And this old lady comes up, she goes, and my brother was wearing a black hat. She goes, oh, and she goes, you have the black hat. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean he got the black hat? Yeah, he's got a black hat. What's the black hat? She goes, oh, well, shh, you're not supposed to say anything, but anyone that, and she was a sweet old lady, she really was, and she goes, shh, she goes, can't say anything, but if you find the person with the black hat, you have to talk to him, and then you could get an invitation to go meet Trump. And it was a thing, and we were like, what the hell? So
Oh my god.
I lost my voice, so I was like, screw it, we're gonna go looking around, I guess. We'll go look for someone with the black hat. And it wasn't Pete, my brother Pete. It wasn't him, obviously. And we're going around because you go into the second floor because we were in the expo doing most of the interviews. Then when you go up, because the expo has a lot of the stuff, which I'm gonna shout out to somebody that was very nice to us. Her name was Gingerbread Betty. By the way, okay, you may not like their views or whatever, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But the gingerbread cookies were really good. I must say they were really good. And my brother bought gingerbread cookies. I want to go back, but on the last day we couldn't go back because once you go upstairs, Trump was coming in, so they had, CIA, they had so much extra protection there, so it's kind of like you couldn't go back to the expo, you couldn't go back up and down, right? Once you go up, you can't leave, okay? So shout out to Gingerbread Betty for being so nice to us and having such great gingerbread cookies. I mean, that was great. So that was the greatest part about the expo. I think the expo, a lot of people have some cool stuff. I interviewed actually the guy who made the right stuff, and I screwed up because I lost my voice, and I was just, I guess I don't know what it was, but I forgot to ask when it's going to be on Android. So I did not get that answer from him because I didn't ask. He was the co-founder of the Right Stuff, which if you saw the Right Stuff, I thought the ad was hilarious. I thought it was great. So
Say for bots.
it really is for bots because my brother made a fake account with me on it, right? And as soon as he goes on the app, he saw a bot, and you could tell. You can tell.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I was asking him how he's fighting with bots and everything, and you'll see that in the interview. But there is definitely bots on there and people trolling. We're gonna do a little trolling.
They do the little trolling.
They did a little trolling, right? So Expo was we walked around. It was a good place to get interviews. It really was. It was a good place to get interviews. We had the CPAC TV in back of us. Like I said, most of the people there were very nice, and I'm not gonna slam anybody. I'm not gonna slam. Yeah, there's no one to slam. Everyone was very nice.
The speakers
That's the way it is.
So nice.
No, the speaker. Well, I didn't interview any of the speakers, so I didn't talk to the speakers.
But the
one
people
speaker
you
I did talk.
were nice to you.
Yes, they were very nice. There was actually, I will say this. I know we're spending a lot of time on CPAC here, but it's great. There's so much to talk about CPAC. So two things. One, the only speaker I met and actually took a photo with was Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds, he talked about my jacket. I was wearing this like red leather jacket, and he goes, what you doing with that jacket? He goes, you got the 80s jacket? What are you doing with the 80s jacket or something like that? And it was great. He was very nice. So I got to meet him. I didn't meet any other politician. Did not care. I wanted to meet him. I wanted to interview him actually, but and they had a list of things. It was like, okay, well, you can interview 3 people, right? And I told you about this, Andrew, right? We went down the list of people that I wanted to interview, right? And I wanted to interview Byron Donalds. I want to interview Vivek, which we're going to get to in a second. And I want to interview Tulsi Gabbard. Now, if you're on the left, sorry for your loss. Liberals were right.
Yeah, they were.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. But anyway,
right. Grifter 101, dude. That's crazy.
But anyway, I really wanted to sit down and have an interview with them. And I know Andrew probably would be like, that guy would be so sarcastic with them if you were interviewing them. Like I wouldn't. Like I'm playing out. I'll be asking them questions like normal. I won't have a smirky response. I won't do any of that stuff. That's why I do. That's why I'm doing the interviews. That's why I do the interviews. So and we gotta go. I gotta go to like a Democratic convention of some sort, which may come to New York, which I really hope it does.
Well, that's the DNC.
That's the DNC. I know. I need more Democratic like events to pop up because I want to go to those events because I feel like I'm only getting one side and it's like you get kind of annoying there, right? So,
Yeah.
so CPAC, Byron Donalds, like I said, I got a picture with him. And the other thing I was going to mention is that to specify how nice some of the people are there, you guys know what happened with Brazil, right? They had their own, people called January 6th.
Yeah.
People would say about Brazil. And there was this Brazilian older woman, and she was with someone that was older, but not too old, right? And I asked her for an interview, and she goes, oh yeah, what is it for? I said, well, it's pro-political gear. I told her what we do. I told her the questions. She said, are you right or left? I said, oh, we're not biased. We just, just ask questions. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that unless you're right wing. I was like, okay. And she felt really bad. because the other person with her, I said no. I tell you what, about 10 minutes later, she runs into us again, me and my brother. She runs into us and she says, come here. Okay, very, like I said, sweet old lady. She comes in and she says, I'm so sorry I couldn't do the interview with you guys. I would have loved to do the interview with you guys. But the reason why I can't is because the stuff that's going on in my country is so bad, where they took someone went for an interview and they took his words out of context and they added so much stuff to it. So we don't trust media unless it's right wing. So I'm so sorry, and she was very nice about it. So even if you don't agree with them, I must say they really were some of the nicest, happiest people I've ever met. And then you get into their political views, and then it's like,
about gay people,
you know what I mean?
Black people, and
No, dude. I gotta be honest with you. There was all right. Like obviously, majority was white, but there was actually a decent amount of black people there.
yeah, those are the ones you asked about gay people.
Yeah, I didn't mention anything about black people, gay people being there. I don't know. There probably was, but
I know there was, but I'm just saying like how they feel about
I don't think there was any trans people there. I don't think so.
That one I think is kind of lost.
That would be a unicorn, if I ever seen
the
it.
ship is kind of sailed on that end for the Republicans, I think.
Probably, quite possibly. So, I mean, that was basically my experience at CPAC. It was 3 days. And you gotta wake up somewhat early. I mean, we went out at night.
Convention.
Yeah. I had to wake up early. We didn't wake up too early because we realized we were waiting for Candace Owens. Yeah, that's basically what it was. When you go to the end, at the end of the first day, Candace Owens was supposed to speak, and we were sitting there and we're waiting for her to speak, and the guy comes out from Newsmax, the owner of Newsmax. I'm like, I don't care about this. I want to see Candace Owens speak. Because I know Candace Owens is the one that's going to make the news. She's going to say something controversial and all this other stuff. I want to be there.
Stupid.
And so then I'm there, and they have, like I said, the media risers there, and Andrew saw it. You could actually, you know what? I think Vice did a video, actually. I think it was Vice we saw. We saw a video of Vice, and they show you the media room, exactly how it is. And you really couldn't see anything live. So we decided we don't have to watch the speeches. We don't have to get up as early, number one. And number two, when Trump comes, we're leaving before. We left at like 2 o'clock. We saw no reason. My voice was gone. It was unfortunate. And it was like, all right, you know what? We're done with the interviews now, and we're gonna leave before it gets chaotic, because then we have a drive back, and then we had work the next day. So we're like, all right, no, we're not gonna stay there till 6:30 for Trump to make a speech that I could watch on my phone. If I was gonna be in the room, then yeah, I might be like, okay, that's gonna be a little, a little historic to me. Like, all right, yeah, I was at CPAC. Yeah, I saw Trump speak, But no, it was like, all right, whatever. I could watch it on my phone, and that's exactly what happened. Watch a little bit of it, watch some, the core clips that I needed to watch, and then that's it. They had the Republicans there that are running against him. They had Trump was there, obviously, as I just mentioned. Nikki Haley was there and made a speech. And now Vivek, which I did not know until like maybe the day before or 2 days before, because of Andrew over here, told me about Vivek. I had no idea. Thank God for Andrew, man. Right? And he told me about Vivek.
Ramaswamy? I'm butcher that name.
Ramaswamy?
Yeah, Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. Might be Ramaswamy.
Something like that, yeah.
I don't have the name in front of me, but yeah, okay. So I call him Vivek. It's very easy. So Vivek, actually, I didn't know about him till recently, and what I didn't know is a certain somebody until I got there, and that was Penny Johnson. Penny Johnson's ad, my brother thought it was a comedy skit. He thought it wasn't real. He thought it was a political. He really thought that it was a fake political ad, and then when I told him, I said, "No, that's real." There was no way. And then they have Chuck Schumer. You saw her. I want a piece of the pie, and he put like all the Democrats or the main Democrats in like a fat booth. It was hilarious, hilarious ad. Thought it was great, and I got to see that he was running. I even got a bag. I got a free bag, right? And yeah, so those are the people that are running right now. Oh, and Mike Pence. Forgot about Mike Pence. He's probably he didn't say he's running, but we know he's running. Um, there was people I ran into that I saw that I didn't walk over to and say hello or anything to. Like I said, I lost my voice, so I really didn't want to talk to anybody. But I had to do what I had to do with certain interviews, right? So interviews are good. Um, Now, a certain somebody that may be running or may not be running for office was not there. I think you could guess who.
Ron the Sanctimonious.
You got it.
That's a guy that's running.
And so,
Not my guy.
well, with the election around the corner, DeSantis has nowhere to be seen around the election. He really isn't. He's just in Florida doing his thing, right?
Well,
And I
no,
think
he's not in Florida doing his thing. He's on book tour right now.
oh, is he actually?
He released a book, and he's been on like every right-wing media outlet talking to them.
Okay, but still, he's not running for election yet.
That's
So.
usually what you do when you're about to run for president. Is you
Oh,
sell a book
really?
and you
You
get
sell a book?
Yeah. It's
Well,
usually what happens. Trump did it too in 2015.
was that Art of the Deal? Is that when that came out?
No. I
No,
don't
I was gonna say that came out. That came out years ago. What book came out when Trump came?
even look at the name of it.
You're gonna have to look the name of that. But I was gonna say that was out a long time ago. I was like, no way.
Great Again: How to Fix Our Crippled America.
Really, I didn't even
Came
know
out
he made
November
that.
3rd, 2015.
Oh, well, yeah, but he announced already in 2015. He announced in June of 2015. So
I mean,
he already.
regardless, they released like right before or right after.
Okay, all right, I'll give you that. And then, so but DeSantis is whatever he's doing, whatever it is in Florida, right? And Trump's just making jabs at him, like he's going for him. Called him a groomer on Truth Social.
He did joke about that.
He calls him Ron the Sanctimonious, or now DeSanctis, or you said earlier today he called him Tiny D. I think that's great.
Tiny
I think
D
he
and
should.
Meatball Ron. Those are the names he has to go with. If he does
Meeple Ron
those
is
names, he wins by,
hilarious.
like 50 points, dude. There's no way.
He wins by 50 points. Absolutely. Absolutely,
Like-
he does.
Yeah, there's just. Well, it's interesting because I feel like DeSantis wasn't gonna jump in, and then the midterms happened, and now he felt comfortable to. But now it's like the pendulum's kind of swinging back to Trump specifically to be like the favorite
Mm-hmm.
because he's starting to like actually campaign kind of decently. Like his politics are getting better. Policy's still like terrible, obviously, but he's kind of doing some politically savvy moves.
Well, I will say,
Like he's on the better side of the Social Security thing. He's more for Social Security than other Republicans are. For example, he kind of handled the Ohio situation pretty smartly, kind of going there and turning it into a campaign event while the Democrats were doing other things.
oh yeah. I will say though, when I was doing interviews, when I was at the pro-life rally, I couldn't go to the pro-choice rally because I worked that day. So unfortunately, I had other plans. I couldn't go, and it was all the way in D.C. and I'm all the way in New York, so that's not happening. I couldn't just go there and couldn't do it. Could only stay there for like the 2 days. So whatever. And when I was there doing the interviews, and actually that interview's up. You can check that interview out on right now. It's on Instagram. It's on TikTok on Pro Political Gear. Most of the people that I interviewed said DeSantis. Now, hear this one out. Most of the people that said DeSantis were younger voters. And I would ask the people at CPAC, I specifically said, what do you do to get young people to start voting for the Republicans? And a lot of them didn't really have an answer that I was looking for. There was nothing too grand, too different that, you know, that like it really stood out and said, wow, you know what, maybe that's it. Or I could turn around and be like in my head, okay, I think I know what policy is. Like if they talk about policy, if they do this and that. Apparently, I didn't see it, but apparently Lee Zeldin turned around and said the reason why Republicans lost in the midterms because they don't work on policy, which is another thing I asked him. I said, why do you think that the Republicans, there was no red wave or red tsunami? And, you know, and I don't think most of them said, if I remember correctly, we weren't talking about better candidates. So it was definitely interesting comparing that with I know a lot of the young people at the pro life march. Um, that was definitely interesting, and I got some young people at CPAC. Don't get me wrong, I did, but definitely more young people. I believe at the rally because actually they had, I think it was high school probably. They had high schools coming from Michigan and Ohio and Florida and all these other states poured in to come to this rally in D.C. So, and most of them were saying DeSantis. So, I mean, when it comes to young voters, I think they really want DeSantis over Trump. A lot of the boomers are saying they want
But
Trump.
then, how many young people are gonna vote in a Republican primary, though? That's the other thing. That's really important.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I don't even know if these guys are 18 yet.
Well, at the
Both guys
pro-life
and
rally,
girls.
right? Because that was a lot of private school, like religious school kids, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's kind of the
yeah.
thing, and it's like most people who vote young obviously vote Democrat, and even in the Democratic Party, that's not a majority. Otherwise, things would be a bit different. But yeah, when it comes to that, I think really the split kind of comes down to Republicans who want to win and Republicans who, really are believe in their whole like Trumpism thing and that he's the one and all that stuff. I think that's kind of the main factions right now. I think
Hmm.
like the quote unquote establishment wing of the Republican Party, like like the I guess like the Jeb Bush types or whatever. I think they're largely irrelevant, you know, because they all pretty much serve the same economic interests. There really isn't that financial incentive to really differentiate it. It's just what they think is the best route to power.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different strategies that the Republicans can be using. And we're definitely going to be talking about Republican strategies and Democratic strategies and just election 2024 strategies during the course all the way until the election. Even after that, we're going to talk
Yeah.
about what happened, what went wrong, and we'll probably state what went wrong when it did go wrong. But we're definitely going to do that, especially right after 2024, right after the election of 24. So we're going to be doing that. And before we cap that off, I got to say a word from our sponsor. Pro Political Gear. Get your Pro Political Gear now. It is a political gift store where you could buy political merchandise, mostly apparel. Use them as gifts for your friends, for your family, for people that you know that love politics, that love to get involved, and love to wear political t-shirts. For example, we have Joe Biden shirts, we have Trump shirts, we have shirts for everybody. And there you go, that's a word from the sponsor. Back to the Pro Political Pod. Andrew, what's next?
So, in some more grim news, President Carter is very old, unfortunately, and as a result of being old, you get life-ending conditions. So he's been put on hospice in the past couple weeks, and I believe earlier today, he requested President Biden to give his eulogy, when that time comes. So it's pretty grim, but I guess it's kind of endearing that he wanted the current president to kind of be the one to give his speech for when he passes. You know.
If you know, the average time spent in a hospice is about 3 weeks. So he really doesn't have too much longer to live. So whether you like him or not, Jimmy Carter, thank you for your service. And obviously, we're probably going to, say another round of thank yous. Unfortunately, when he passes, which is going to be soon, and we wish the best for him and his family. And hopefully, he goes out peacefully.
Yeah, well, I think he will.
Yeah, but can you imagine? But here's one thing, he asked Joe Biden to give his eulogy, and I mean, can you imagine how that eulogy is gonna go? Guy's gotta be high. He needs his Adderall. He needs something. Can you imagine he fucks that up?
Yeah, I mean, might be endearing.
No, it could be enduring, but what I'm saying is, can you imagine? Uh, well, we're here today for the death of Bill Clinton. You
He
know?
said things like that. There's the one of he didn't know where like a woman was which he died like 3 months earlier.
Where's Jackie?
Yeah.
Imagine we're here at the Carter funeral. Where did Jimmy go? Is Jimmy not here today? So
Yeah.
listen, okay? If you're a Democrat, which Jimmy Carter very much was, wouldn't you want to pick someone who knows how to speak?
I mean, he
Like,
knows how to speak, but
no, he knows how to speak. But listen, I trip over my words all the time, and I'm not even close to his age. I'm not even close to 80 or 70 or any of that. I'm not even close. I trip on my words and stutter and all that. But if I was a Democrat, all right, I was in office, gave my life service, I'm about to die. I'm not giving Joe Biden that responsibility to give a eulogy.
I absolutely would. Are you kidding?
That
Most lit eulogy ever.
What about? Wouldn't you pick Obama?
No.
Or would it be too
Show me
boring? It would be boring. Okay.
Like, I don't know. It depends. I mean, I guess for us, it's like, I can see why Carter would do it though, because it's like he's the current president. Like,
Yes,
it's
I
kind of like
see
a
it.
symbolic thing.
What? That Biden's next? Like.
No, you know what I mean. Like,
No, I know what you mean. I mean, it's just funny.
I think it's kind of normal.
I hope he does a good
I
job.
mean, I guess it. I was gonna say because when Bush Senior died, that didn't really happen with Trump, but
He wasn't even there.
no, he wasn't.
He wouldn't even attend.
Or when McCain died.
Oh, McCain. That was. Oh my God, that was some. I like my war heroes not captured. That was hilarious, dude. Oh my God, that was terrible. How do you say something like that?
Yeah, it was really funny though. I will admit.
Like, that was terrible. It was hilarious,
Didn't he
but
like
it was
double
terrible.
down when he died? I was like, what the hell is wrong?
Yeah, he doubled down. Listen, listen. I will say, one of my closest friends, he says this. Oh, he would say this. At least he's consistent. Terrible. It really was. But listen, he's gonna do what Trump does. So.
Yeah. Though I think Trump should have given their eulogies. Those have been funny.
Oh, those have been hilarious. He died
he
like a
did-
dog.
he did give it.
That was
Actually, he gave a eulogy to like some, I don't even know what they did, but they did like they were like I think twins or sisters, or like these two black women. One of them died and he gave her eulogy. And then halfway through it, he basically turned into like a campaign speech.
That's hilarious.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe Obama would have been better.
Abu Abba al Baghdadi. I love the way he said it. He goes, he died like a dog, a beautiful dog. And he says, by the way, I'm writing a book. Like,
Yeah.
guy's hilarious, dude. I guess him or Brian would be hilarious. You're right. He would be.
Anyone over 80.
Anyone over 80. Pretty much. I think that
Anyways,
goes into our next,
but
which is Biden. Actually, he's actually
yeah,
on
speaking
next.
of Biden, he's signed another executive order today. This time about the issue of gun violence. Last year Congress did pass a bipartisan bill to try to curb gun violence, trying to do more background checks, have more flag laws in place in certain areas, basically encouraging certain states to do them that aren't already. And so today he signed an executive order to kind of speed up that process. He wants to kind of have the attorney general crack down on states that aren't enforcing, or on gun sellers specifically that aren't enforcing background checks. So if they sell a gun that's wrongfully sold to someone, then they get penalized by the attorney general essentially. And this was done because in January there was another mass shooting, as there always is in this country. Unfortunate that it's even just like a normal occurrence, but it kind of is, and we still kind of are a ways away before this legislation is really going to impact that, if it does. So yeah, you have any takes on this?
I mean, wanting a background check for all firearms, I mean, I think that's a good thing. I think that's the thing that should be standard. I don't know. I don't see anything wrong with it. Um, if that's all it is, then I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, you
I
look
think
at
realistically, like the background checks, I think red flag laws that are smartly enforced make sense too. Like they have
yeah,
pretty hard guidelines.
look at New York. Look at the city that I'm in. I mean, there's so many illegal guns on the streets that they've taken away, and they've taken them away. Now, New York isn't the toughest on crime, as you know, as anybody knows, but they do take the guns away on off the streets. You know how many guns there are that are on the streets illegally? Like, I think they just passed, I think last year, saying you could carry a gun. And I think that's what also led into, okay, well, I think we should legalize guns. It's still going to be strict and all, but we're going to legalize it because there's so many illegal guns. You want to keep track on who has a gun or not.
Well, it's not
Look at look at
exactly how that
Texas.
happens.
Also, look at Texas though, okay? My biggest problem with Texas right now, and there's some problems with Texas. I mean, more than that, right? We could get into, but we could spend
Yeah.
the whole. I think we could spend an episode on Texas, but we're not. One thing I'll say about Texas, you're not allowed or required to carry a gun license, and I think that's dangerous. You know, and anyone that tells me it's not dangerous has to explain to me how it's not. You know, it's really simple. You gotta carry it. You gotta carry a license with you.
What's next? They're gonna have
Yeah,
us
they
have a
can.
license for our toaster.
Yeah, it's a license to toast my own damn toaster.
Yeah,
You
that's a
know,
problem. Like on social issues, I think being like libertarian minded is pretty good, but I think there are some issues in regards to safety and especially the economy where it's kind of like I think there does need to be some kind of regulation, some kind of laws to restrict what people can do. When it comes to operating things that are dangerous like guns or cars, I think licenses make sense.
oh yeah,
In general, I think that if you do have a license to own a gun, I think you're pretty fair game though if you have the right training and you're in the right mental state. So I will say that's fair. I think like banning most types of guns is pretty unrealistic because like Chris was saying, there's a lot of illegal guns on the street, and to get rid of all those, not only from like a mechanical sense that really hard to do because just how many guns are in the country. Politically, it's like impossible because of just the way that the narrative on guns is kind of is, where it's like any kind of restrictions, like even background checks, you want to do that, and then you'll have like people like on the far right say, "Oh, they're taking away our guns," even though it's like not even doesn't even make sense. And some of it's like we're at the core of it, it's funded by like the NRA, which is basically like like telling these Republican politicians to say, okay, you have to like do nothing on guns because you don't want to impact our gun sales. But what that leads to is like now there's a lot of like voters who of their own volition buy all this stuff and they're like, oh, we can't have any kind of restrictions on guns, period. When it's like guns are to kill people so easily. Like, why would you not want a restriction on that? you know?
my rights.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and I think this is something that people got to take into consideration. And it's hard to say, and I understand that. But I think Biden did actually nail it on the head when he said, along the lines, he said, why with the guns do you think you're going to stop the military if the government comes after you? And you could
I
stomp
remember
your feet and you could get mad at that all you want, but he's right. We fund the military, what is it, 2.7 trillion, something like that. We fund the military so much. I don't care who's in office, okay? No matter what, I don't care. Even if it's 1 trillion, even if it's half a trillion, what is your pistol or AR gonna do with half a trillion? Even obviously it's more, but half a trillion, even a billion, even $1 million. They come to your home. They can bring a tank. They can bring whatever they want. So I think the definition of Second Amendment, I think, has changed over the course of the decades and centuries. I mean, I don't know if it's for the better, but it is at the same time, if that makes sense, right? I mean, I think we have to know that as a nation, our technology is only growing. Technology is growing in the military much faster than anywhere else on the planet, specifically the U.S. government. The U.S. military has so much technology, and we like this stuff because we could fight China and all these other countries that we want to fight. But then when you look at it in your own backyard and say, well, they could fight us a lot more than they could fight any of these other countries, you got to understand that definition has changed. So now it comes down to my rights, this, and that. And I can't really say, personally, when it comes to certain guns, what's allowed in certain states. I know when it comes to the school shootings, I know one of my uh, biggest laws I would love to get signed, or biggest bill that I would like to get signed into law, right, would be put in metal detectors in schools. Track the people who come onto campus. It's not something we want to do, but it's something we're going to have to do because there's too many murders going on in schools. You see, in New York, there's not that many school shootings. I don't know how many school shootings are in New York.
Well, when it comes to the gun,
they're shooting on the outside, okay, but on the inside of these schools, and then we have to figure out how to protect people on the outside, of course. But at least when it comes to the schools, I think metal detectors do help. They help a lot. They really do. And this is something that I think needs to be talked about. So when we go to the Second Amendment, and I don't understand certain states. I don't know how it is. I don't know what it's like to have an AR in Arizona. I don't know. I don't live in Arizona. I don't go shooting on the regular or on the daily basis in whatever state it is. I don't go to Texas. I don't go to Wyoming and do shooting there. I don't know how life is in Wyoming. I don't even think they have like 1 million people. They don't. They probably have a couple thousand people in Wyoming. It doesn't apply to me, who lives in a city full of 8 million people. So I can't really say certain things on guns or what should be available, what shouldn't be available. I mean, I know you have your opinions and your takes on what should be available or not, but it's very hard to really sit there and dictate a structure of what everyone in the states have to have or not have. So, but I definitely do agree with background checks on all firearms. I think it's 100% completely it's easily one of the best. I guess this is a bill, right? That could potentially to get passed. Absolutely, and that's my piece on that.
Well, I was gonna say is that when it comes to like the idea of like, oh, should we have metal detectors, should we have this and that, a lot of these are kind of band-aid solutions, and it's annoying because when they do talk about when these shootings happen and when they talk about doing gun reform, a lot of times people, especially like on the right, will talk about oh well, it's not guns, it's mental health. And there is a degree of truth to that, but the problem is a lot of these guys, when they bring it up, it's just to kind of deflect from it, and then they never want to do anything with mental health. Anything, like they usually want to defund mental health access, and they don't really, and health access in general obviously isn't something they really want everyone to have. So it's kind of frustrating that there are ways to kind of hit this at a more systemic level, but there really isn't enough dialogue on there. So we're kind of stuck with these kind of more band-aid solutions of like, oh well, we can just kind of, like, background checks are good and red flags are good, like they should be the law. And then metal detector, maybe schools do need to have metal detectors at least for the foreseeable future, but there is like a cultural element of it that's kind of should be addressed because there is so much depression now, there's so much anxiety about the world, there's all these problems that exist for a lot of reasons. So it's kind of a shame that the government won't really look into that in a meaningful way. So we're kind of stuck with these kind of partisan bickering contests, which largely is fueled by the NRA kind of just propping up like these massively pro-gun politicians to say all this like ridiculous stuff, quite frankly. So
I think another like example of a band-aid issue, right? I think is the wall. Like to bore a wall, and like when people say build the wall, it's like I'm not saying don't build the wall. What I'm saying is what do we do after that? Because it's not just the wall, right? You could build a wall. I think building a wall is fine, but if you're not going to attack on overstay visas and those other things, like you said, these solutions are just band-aid solutions. We don't look after we finish one problem. We don't go into the next. We don't look at the next. We look at the next issue. We don't, but it's not under that umbrella of immigration. Now we're going to something else. And then we'll have media that tells us or tells other people that believe in a certain ideology, saying what they want to hear. They'll be like, okay, well now people are coming from the border less than they did before. Okay, I'm not saying I'm not saying you're lying about it. What I'm saying is you're not telling the other half.
Well, the
And
opposite
that's
of that's
saying
happening. Like,
no. But I'm saying like I'm not talking about right now. I'm saying like if the wall were to get built, you know what I'm saying? Like an example. So you have that as like what we call a band-aid issue, and that is exactly what it sounds like, exactly what you're saying, because we don't look until after that. There's no after look. I mean, look at New York. We're supposed to have a mental health program. I could get into that. I will at a later date, but look how that turned out. It didn't.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like we say one thing and then another thing happens. So
So, kind of weird offhanded remark, right? Chris, you said you had his Pete's response to this, right?
I did have Pete's response, and he did turn around. And he said something along the lines of, "Listen, I can't, I can't sit here and talk about an issue like this when there's things going on. Like, look," he said basically, "I went out and I saw Mike Pence the other day. He asked me about my kids. It was all normal." He goes, "But I can't worry about something like this. I gotta worry about the real issues going on." So that's basically what he said, and it was a fine answer. I mean, a lot of people are gonna go crazy over what Pence said, because obviously what Pence said was a little out of line. That's the way politics is as of late, you know. So and
Well,
given
it's
the
like we
sense
said
that
before with the
Mhm.
thing that Don Jr. said about Fetterman. It's kind of like, just why would you say
Yeah,
that?
low
It's
hanging fruit,
stupid.
because you
Yeah.
know how he is. He's a supposedly a strict Christian Catholic,
Yeah, and I guess there's like the
and
homophobic angle that some people took from this too, because it's like, because they're saying obviously he's not getting it because he's a man, and
yeah.
they, hmm
So it was kind of like oh, that's crazy. You
yeah,
know what I mean, type of thing. You know what I mean?
and it's like of all the things to attack Pete Buttigieg for, like of
Oh,
all
you
the
could
like
attack. You could
stupid
attack
things.
Buttigieg from every single
There's so
angle,
many
and
angles you could go at
yeah,
with
man.
like,
And you
because
choose this one?
he's like kind of like not really nepotism, but nepotism basically, because it's like he didn't really do much. Like he got second. Like I think he had like the most delegates in the presidential primary. So Biden basically was like, drop out, endorse me, and I'll guarantee you a position that he didn't deserve, and he got it. And there's all these like crazy things with the airline industry, with the rail industry, and he's really not doing enough, basically, in these regards. And it's like they'll attack him over that, but they'll do it in a very like, kind of like dishonest, shitty way. But that's how it is always gonna be, right? With these
Oh,
with
of
these right
course.
wingers,
Yeah.
it's like, they're like,
Well,
oh yeah, like they're so bad on this thing that we're just as bad on, if not worse.
of course. I think that definitely goes for both sides. But
It depends.
specifically this, I
But
mean,
I think when it comes
obviously.
to transportation regulations and stuff like that, like the Republicans love to like we're not gonna talk about this today, but with the bank crashes, like a lot of people are saying, hey, this is probably because the Republicans deregulated the banks and they weren't able to like kind of make sure this type of thing wouldn't happen. But then the Republicans, when it happens, are like, oh look, this is Biden's fault because he's the president. That's what happens a lot. It happened with Obama too, where like things that kind of crashed, like they'll kind of take credit for the crashing, and then when the Democrats implement regulations or things to kind of stabilize it, they'll take credit for a stabilization. Like the economy went up a lot, and then it went a lot. It went up a lot in Trump's first 4 years as president, and he took a lot of credit for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just like, and I'm sure there's examples of that happening the opposite way too. But
Oh yeah, of course there is. That's because you know what it is. It's not like I want to be because it's both sides thing. It's not even just that. It's just the new nature of politics. This and
that's
I
not even new. Like I feel like this
no,
exists
but
from
it's
like
been
years
it
ago.
of course, but it's been getting worse, and I think that's big part of it is just media in general. People have access to media more, so people are gonna say more foul things to get more attention because
Well,
more
I'm just talking about
attention
the
means more media
partisanship
time.
and the
Yeah,
history.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. Um, and if you really want to get into some real spicy stuff on politicians doing dirty things, I think we could look at George Santos. Oh man, what a guy! I love this guy. I think this guy is great. Right?
I think he's my favorite Republican right
My
now.
favorite. I don't know.
For
It's
real.
between him and Penny Johnson are up there for me. I think those are
Well,
our guys.
Penny Johnson isn't. He's not an elected official. He probably never will be. So
That is
it's
true. That is
George
true.
Santos for me.
George Santos. Yeah. This guy. I mean, we we gotta
He's
talk
like
about this guy because specifically, okay, he's planning for re-election. This guy's playing for re-election. Now, if you've seen this man's track record,
it's terrible. It's so funny.
man, and politicians lie. We know this. Politicians lie
Yeah. It's like a
all the time. But this is a new record. This is a great record. This record's hilarious. It's great. He lied about when he went to high school. He lied when he went to college. He said he worked on Wall Street. He didn't. He lied about being a founder of an animal charity. Then he had an incident where he took someone's a vet's animal. I said, "Oh, we're gonna help it," and he didn't. There's so many things that this guy lied about.
lied about his race.
He lied about his race. Don't forget, he is Christian, right? But because his family, or I guess his ancestors were Jewish, that makes him Jewish. So this guy's great, man. I mean, there is.
It's really something. I mean,
Oh,
we could harp on this. I think everyone, if you're watching this still, like you just know about this guy. You know he's a fucking colossal liar.
yeah,
But I
absolutely.
think like we talk about this because he wants to run for re-election or he's considering it, and it's like, do you see like how far do you see this guy getting? Because I was talking to Chris the
Not
other
far
day
at
about
all.
like privately, and I was saying like there's only like he's done a lot of like legitimate crimes and stuff like that. And obviously a lot of politicians do. You know, it happens. But I feel like this guy's so brazen with all of it, and there's so many people who like inside the system that don't like him. Like, there's a chance this guy could get like convicted or arrested.
Oh,
But he wants to
absolutely.
be reelected, and I think the craziest part about this is he got elected in a swing state, like in a swing district. I mean, to say, like he's a New York congressman, and him winning that switched it from Democrat to Republican.
That's crazy.
So,
Well, he's about to switch it right back. I just flipped the switch. like man,
well, I was
that's not
so
staying.
do you think he wins a Republican primary?
Absolutely not, dude. They don't. The people that voted him in are pissed at him. I think I saw on the news. Bro, they were going after him, and a lot of
Yeah.
people. Who's pissed?
Who?
Jewish people. They have every right to be. I mean, this guy. I mean, to be fair, he is, as he said before, Jewish. He's Jewish. So it's like.
Believe that one, but yeah.
So I mean, I guess he technically didn't lie, but he did lie. He really did lie, and it's hilarious. The whole thing is really something. It's really something, and we have never seen it in politics before. I don't think we'll see it again. It's really something, and that's something to look at and be like, wow, like this thing happened. Like, this is in the history books. He made
Yeah.
it. He got elected. He's in.
It's like
I
something
think
out
it'll
of a
be
movie,
interesting.
right? Like,
Oh yeah, I think it'll be interesting what he plans to try and pass and all this other stuff. I still don't know what his
Well,
plans are, like, actually, because I don't know if he even has any. I think he just kind of like just got there.
when he got like you know how the other like when Congress started for the year, the Republicans had like a big civil war over like the House speakership.
Yeah.
He was one of the ones that pretty quickly sided with McCarthy. So I think he's just gonna try to cling on to whatever the majority does to try to stay like the safest. So I think he's gonna be a pretty standard Republican just based off of that, like in
Oh
terms of his
yeah.
voting record. But it's a
Yeah.
tough
There's a
spot
good
because yeah,
possibility.
like it's not like a stable red state or a stable red district, and it's like,
Oh,
how far
absolutely. I
can
mean,
you really get?
oh yeah, dude, it's really insane. But so good luck to George Santos on your re-election bid. Um, I wish him well. I wish a lot of people
I wish a lot
well.
of people well. Yeah.
So, and with that, we're gonna say thank you for being here for our first pro political pod session. This is the first time we started a podcast. And we're glad that, well, if you stayed, we're very glad you did. And if you like us and want to see more, good news, we have plans to make this a weekly thing, make it 2 times a week, and we're gonna get this out there as fast as we can. This is the first time we're really putting a podcast out there, which the fastest would be YouTube, right? And we're gonna be out there on Spotify. Uh, we're going to put ourselves on Rumble and Google Podcast and Apple Music, and those are going to be our main platforms for now. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening, and we will see you guys soon. Definitely soon. So like I said, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
So have a good day, have a good night, wherever you're hearing this from, whatever time of the day, and we'll see you all later.